We were not a family anyone would describe as unhappy. There were no loud arguments shaking the walls, no dramatic exits, no visible cracks. If someone visited us, they would see a neat living room, polite smiles, warm tea being served, and children who seemed well behaved. From the outside, everything appeared steady, but stability is not the same as closeness. Our days followed a predictable rhythm. Morning alarms rang like commands. My father prepared for work in silence. My mother moved efficiently between the kitchen and our rooms, reminding us to hurry. We rushed through breakfast. Shoes were tied quickly. Bags were lifted. The front door opened and closed repeatedly until the house finally became quiet. By evening, we returned carrying invisible weight. My father carried deadlines. My mother carried exhaustion. We carried school stress, comparison, and questions about who we were becoming. Yet none of these things were spoken aloud. The television filled the silence every night. It was never really watched carefully, but it was always on. Its noise made the house feel occupied. Without it, the quiet felt uncomfortable, almost exposing. We sat on the same sofa, shoulders nearly touching, yet emotionally far away. Phones glowed in our hands like small private worlds. Dinner was inconsistent, sometimes together, sometimes not, sometimes early, sometimes late. Plates clinked, water was poured, basic questions were asked out of habit. How was your day? Fine. That word became our shield. Fine meant tired. Fine meant stressed. Fine meant I don't want to explain. No one pushed further, not because we didn't care, but because we didn't know how. We loved each other deeply. That part was never in doubt, but love without expression slowly turns quiet, and quiet, over time, turns into distance. We did not notice the distance growing. It happened gently, like dust settling on furniture, invisible at first, then normal, until one ordinary evening when something unexpected interrupted our routine, and that interruption would change us more than we could have imagined. It happened on a Thursday. A heavy storm rolled across the city, just as we were settling into our usual evening positions. The wind rattled the windows. Rain tapped urgently against the glass. Then suddenly, the lights went out. The house fell into complete darkness. At first, there was frustration. My sibling complained about unfinished work. I worried about my phone battery. My father checked the power switch twice, hoping it was a small issue. But the entire neighborhood was dark. My mother lit a few candles and placed them carefully around the room. Their soft glow changed everything. The walls looked warmer. Shadows moved gently. The television remained silent. The Wi-Fi router blinked uselessly. We had nothing to distract us. So we sat together, not because we planned to, not because someone insisted, simply because there was nowhere else to go. For several minutes, no one spoke. The rain became the only sound. It felt awkward, almost too intimate. Without screens, we were left with each other. Then my father cleared his throat and said, almost casually, "When I was your age, storms used to scare me." We all looked at him. He rarely spoke about his childhood, but that night, he continued. He described walking home in heavy rain, hiding under small shop roofs, pretending to be brave. He spoke about dreams he once had, about mistakes he made, about fears he never shared. We listened, really listened. My mother smiled softly, adding small memories of her own. My sibling laughed at an embarrassing story from primary school. I admitted something I had been worried about for weeks. The storm outside grew stronger, but inside, something gentler was forming. The power did not return for hours, but conversation did. And when the lights finally flickered back on, none of us rushed to turn the television on again. Something had shifted, quietly but deeply. The next evening, the electricity stayed on, but my father switched the television off anyway. "Let's talk for a bit," he said. It felt unusual, yet familiar at the same time. We sat at the dining table without distractions. At first, the conversation was small, careful, testing. But gradually, the stories returned. We began sharing one honest thing each day. Sometimes it was small, a joke from school, a minor success, a silly mistake. Sometimes it was heavier, stress, doubt, fear of the future. The word fine slowly disappeared from our vocabulary. We began asking better questions. What made it hard? What made you happy? What are you worried about? And we waited for real answers. We learned that my mother often felt overwhelmed but didn't want to burden us. We learned that my father carried silent pressure to provide. They learned that we sometimes felt lost and unsure about expectations placed on us. No dramatic transformation happened. We still